Hey, you guys! I am super excited about it being Saturday morning.
It's a beautiful day. It is stinking cold, but it is really pretty outside. So you can look out the window and say, "Oh, look how nice!"
Yes, which I much prefer this cold weather than what we had maybe even yesterday, where it was a little bit more overcast. I don't know. We did go bike riding yesterday,
but it was pretty cold. We got
cold.
About halfway through our favorite trail, and it was like, okay, this might have been a mistake.
Yeah, the wind was a little cold. And
definitely like nose running down your face.
Adolin
and
was
stuff.
like, my nose is running. I think we need to turn around. So we had our little picnic on the trails, and then we turned around and came back here. And we have a fireplace that you can just turn on with a switch, and so that's really nice. Whenever you walk in and you're cold, you just go.
That is true.
And you can warm up. But
modern technology.
So we titled this, we threw away 80% of the food in our pantry, and this happened next. Well, this story actually took place 13, 14, 15 years ago.
Something like that.
I was like 20, 21. I think we had been married about a year because he was working in West Virginia and I was in Louisiana by myself when all of this was kind of happening. But I had a little bit of like, I don't know if it's a health scare or just like awakening where I was having trouble. I was passing out randomly, and that's kind of, sometimes they say, is it brain cancer? Is it, like that's not a good sign. And so they did all these different tests and they couldn't find anything wrong. And so then we were like, well, we don't like that answer. We don't like that answer. And honestly, they were like, we could put you on this medicine or whatever. And I was like, I don't want to be on medicine whenever you really don't know what's going on. And so my sister was actually having her own health journey at the same time because she was really trying to figure out, what do we need to eat? She has a special needs son who has a feeding tube. And so she was like, what can I feed him that's not sugar, that's not the Pediasure, where she looked at the ingredients and it was like sugar was the first thing. She's like, that does not feel good. And so she was researching.
Well, certainly not as like the only thing you eat.
Right. Yeah. The only thing that the doctor said to give him was, well, just give him Pediasure. And she's just like, no, that does not feel right. So she was going on like, what should we be eating then? And, rehabbing her whole food and everything. And so she started talking in my ear. And so that started a health journey for us too. And it started with our pantry. Now, the first book that we read was The Maker's Diet.
Yeah, good book. I remember reading that, and we were trying to understand what was going on here. And, at this point, we were pretty broke. We were employed. I
was in college.
She was still in college. I had my first job. So we were, paying the bills, but, still learning about our finances and stuff like that. And had our pantry. And I remember she's like, okay, we have this stuff, and this is what I think could be contributing, to these fainting spells, or, we thought, is it low blood sugar or something like that? No, or low blood pressure, excuse me.
It was,
Because she would just sort of fall out, but it would happen really slowly, so we started looking for,
environmental
things,
triggers.
So just everything we saw said, okay, well, this could just be something like many people have sensitivities to certain things. People talk about, their kids are really reactive to red food dye or something like that.
Allergies.
So we weren't sure what it was, but we said, okay, that seems like the next step is let's try to figure out what these triggers might be. And so we had like a list of potential things, and a lot of it was, refined sugar, coloring, several different additives, artificial
and you guys,
sweeteners.
This was okay. So I thought we were eating healthy. We were eating at home, so we weren't eating out a lot. But I was living on Diet Coke because I thought that, well, sugar's bad for me, so I need the opposite, which is aspartame, I guess is what it is.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I didn't know that there is research out there that shows so much bad side effects from aspartame. I think I was on birth control at the time. There were a lot of things.
And certainly aspartame in large quantities. Because it's one of those things that when you get into a diet, whatever, we almost tend to eat a lot more of it. Because it's diet, it doesn't count.
Right.
And so almost anything can have negative consequences when you have a lot of it. And, aspartame, NutraSweet, Splenda, those typical ones. You know, knowing my luck, that'll happen with stevia one day. Who knows? But
everything in moderation. But I think that these artificial sweeteners are definitely what to avoid. And that's what I was eating so much of, because I thought that they were healthy, because I knew that I didn't need to eat sugar, but I had a sweet tooth. And so a lot of our pantry had these ingredients in
so
there.
what do you remember from that pantry that we chucked?
Well,
Like
I know the Diet
things...
Coke. I quit cold turkey because I was like, nope. And I just quit. And so
she's got way more discipline than I'll ever have. But
I do. When I decide to do something, I jump 100%, 110% in. And then honestly, I just remember, we switched to 5 ingredients or less, so that we would read stuff. So then a lot of from the Maker's Diet, it's a 40-day sort of journey. And the first 2 weeks, you only eat meat and vegetables, no grains, no dairy. It is pretty much an elimination diet. And then it steps you through. And what I like about it is you can do anything for 40 days. Yeah. So we don't talk about the Maker's Diet much anymore. It's not something that I follow, but I still think it is a good starting point as far as it really did make a huge difference for us. This was so long ago, but it was a way to do an elimination type diet, and you can ease back in. You're okay, well, obviously I'm eating this and I'm not passing out, so that means that that's not the culprit.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that making those changes pretty much eliminated those symptoms.
Yeah, I mean,
and it was one of those things where we to this day are not really sure, it was that's what it was, but it really seemed like making those environmental changes completely resolved the problem. And where the suggestions were just absurd on what was the medical intervention that was suggested. It was oh, come on, you don't, when you're 21, this probably isn't the thing you should be doing. Right. Nor do you want to be falling, falling asleep / passing out. You don't want that to happen while you're driving. So something had to happen. Right. Because, I know it happened to you in class once.
Right. I know I passed out in class. I did pass out at work one time, maybe twice. I don't know. But but thankfully, I don't do that anymore. And so that is why I'm so passionate about, understanding what people are eating, what's their diet, because a lot of times what we eat really is how we live. It starts with what you give your body, kind of is the starting point of how you feel, and your confidence, even, just because if you give your body good things, then you feel better. And so I feel like it starts with your pantry. Yeah. And so because we started, like I said, it was more like an elimination type diet, and then we've changed it based on how we feel. You can understand, how it's more like a journey. Yeah. Where now our pantry looks different than it did. Sure. When 10
and
years
that's
ago.
To be expected. I mean, your life looks pretty different than it did 10 or 15 years ago, I'm sure. That was before we had kids, before, when we shifted from working, out of the home to working in the home. We started cooking more. We went through having to prepare lunch stuff that we just do differently now.
Taking our lunches. That was a struggle. I remember
that was hard.
Working, because he commuted an hour and I commuted an hour in different directions. So we lived in the middle because we were married and we wanted to be in the same house at night. But it was really tough. I just remember it was really tough to plan. I had to plan ahead a lot. I used a lot of crock pot meals. Now I use a lot of Instant Pot meals because I didn't even have an Instant Pot back then. True. But I had to plan ahead. I had to pack my bag, my lunch box, because once I got to campus, I couldn't just buy anything once I was there. And I remember the one time that I did go out to eat with my friends, I felt horrible, and so I just remember thinking I have to pack my bag. I have to plan ahead. I have to do this. And so, and then once we moved where we weren't commuting, it wasn't as, it didn't have to take up all that brain power.
Yeah, but I think what so many things started with reworking that pantry, why it was such a big deal for us, is, that ultimately has led to a lot of questions about, what are, I hear our Roomba running, that's funny. I was like, what is that sound? Oh, I'm hearing the Roomba. Decisions about, what are healthy choices? How do you build your life around that? And that started people asking Angela, well, hey, what do you do about that? And I have memories of her asking me, how do I do a blog? We knew that was a thing. And I remember setting up that very first WordPress version.
Adolin was 6 months old when I started my blog. which I haven't deleted anything. So if you scroll all the way back to the oldest post, you'll see some pretty pitiful blog posts. They're pretty bad.
But I said it really did start that whole process and ended up leading into what we actually do now. It's just really funny thinking back to how far back that went and how it changed so much just by taking a hard look at what was already in our house. And I know people have gone through this process with the kind of cleaners you want to use, the kind of food you want to cook with, environmental kind of stuff that you expose yourself to all the time. That can be really valuable process to think through what do I value, what's important to me. And for a lot of these things, there's not necessarily one answer. Here's the thing that, what's valuable to you, how much are you willing to spend to get there? This is decisions we all have to make. Yeah. How much effort do you want to put into it?
I used to make my own yogurt. Yeah. There were a lot of things I used to make myself before I was a mom or just a mom of one child. And now it's just like, I don't have time for that. I am not doing that.
Yeah, we're not quite as much of
do
from
it
scratch
ourselves.
Anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, the do it myself is like, wow, I do not have time for that.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, we tend to throw stones at whatever people are not doing it the exact way that we think it should be done. And, we want to say, figure out what is it appropriate for your lifestyle and what you can do, and then go and do it. I mean, this is kind of like...
This is a no judgment zone, because I'm certainly not perfect by any means. And whenever I was 20, 21, whenever I first got started, I jumped in 110%. And then I thought, this is the only thing, and if you don't do it, 100%, then it's not worth it. And then I realized, wow, healthy living is honestly, there's ebb and flow. There are times where life is stressful. You just had a baby, things like that, where you can't do it exactly as you want to do, but you can make a healthy decision every single day. And I feel like that's honestly what, in this life that we're in right now, that is crazy with 3 kids and going, homeschooling and everything, it's just like, if I can make 1% changes, those simple, healthy swaps are honestly what makes up for 80% of your results.
Yeah, and I think that is something that a lot of years of this have shown. And what we tried to do is we've actually made a resource up for you guys that tries to take some of these simple, healthy swaps, okay, where do I start? How do I do something small that I can add these things together and start making some progress? Because most of us are not really prepared to junk our whole pantry, right? Or completely change the entire way I live my life. And that may be you, but for many people, that's not. So we tried to put together some guides and some resources to help you say, all right, where can I start? What's something I can start with now? And 1% changes over time make huge differences. I mean, it's like turning a cruise ship. You're turning a little bit, but eventually you get that thing turned. And it's one of those deals that it's really hard to turn. You can't turn the Titanic on a dime. That's why they hit that iceberg, right?
We saw how that went.
Oh yeah. I mean, no room for Leo on the door apparently.
Oh,
no, gosh.
Rose.
No, what have you done? Oh, sorry. Oh, inside joke. Sorry.
So I made a video. This was probably a couple weeks ago, about how to ease into eating low carb. Obviously, that's how we eat now most of the time. We do splurge because I believe that there is a place for splurge meals, because
there's a place for tacos.
Sanity, but I feel like if you can make one healthy meal a week, if that's all you can do, start with one a week. But then my video that I made, I said start with one meal a day. And so a lot of times I feel like breakfast, if you can start eating healthy, a meal at breakfast, then it sets the tone for the rest of the day. Because just think about how your body works. If you wake up and you feel it with high carb, lots of sugar, you are already on the roller coaster, the sugar roller coaster. You are starting yourself up. You're going to feel great for about an hour, and then you're going to crash. And then it's going to be 10 o'clock, and that's why you're hitting, the desk, and you're hitting the coffee and everything. But if you learn to fuel your body the right way, and you start your morning off right, and then you never have that crash, and then, it sets everything else. So that was a simple, healthy swap that I love sharing about, is starting your day off the right way and fueling your body the right way, even for busy moms. This is something that we can do when we don't have time to fix a breakfast or whatever. We can nourish our body the right way, and I feel like that is one easy place to start.
Well, I hope that's been helpful for you guys today. It's something we were talking about. We were laughing about. The girls wanted pancakes today. So we found ourselves in the pantry, and you have this thought. I mean, if you've ever been sitting in your pantry and looking around like, hey, I got some random stuff in here. I'm always finding shoes in the pantry.
Oh,
it's
my goodness.
It's near the garage, so the girls keep leaving.
Baby dolls, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find in the
pantry.
pantry. So that just started this whole discussion about,
goodness.
yeah, man, we did some crazy stuff in the pantry. So I'm sure we're going to drop some links in here.
So I have my free keto grocery list that is yours for free. If you want to just say the word list, I will send it to you. We also have so many resources and everything on our blog, grassfedmama.com, with recipes and other like healthy swaps guides and things like that are yours free, because we want to help normal moms and dads look and feel their best with simple healthy swaps.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. If you are dealing with the cold, try to stay warm. It's good to sit by the fire and look out the window. That's a good plan.
I don't know. Annalise out there riding her bike.
Yeah,
so she likes
I don't know.
it. The cold never bothered her anyway.
Apparently not. She is wearing her frozen gear.
She is head to toe and frozen.
Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon.